Tampa Bay Lightning going for it. Seattle Kraken throwing in the towel. Welcome to the sheet. This Wednesday, March the 5th. Marek along with you. Zach Phillips playing the keyboards in the background. You know, that's actually a small town strip club. But keeping the whole show together is Zach Phillips. He'll pop on here in a couple of moments. Pierre McGuire will be aboard, NHL analyst. Pretty big trade to talk about here, folks. If you're wondering about how serious the Tampa Bay Lightning are about this season and the Stanley Cup, Yanni Gourde returns. He'll bring Oliver Bjorkstrand with him in her 5th-round draft pick in exchange for 2 firsts, Michael Eyssimont as well, going back to Seattle. Seattle, after losing last night to the Minnesota Wild. Shane Wright with a goal, by the way, for all of you that are following attention and paying attention to the 2022 draft. Seattle Kraken pretty much saying, that's it, we're too far out. We're looking to the future, and we're beginning that by trading Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gourde to the Tampa Bay Lightning. We'll get Pierre McGuire's thoughts on that one. Also, Jason York from the Coming In Hot podcast, former NHL defenseman, will weigh in on everything going on around the Ottawa Senators. We should probably park some time to talk about Brady Tkachuk as well, the Ottawa Citizen, in their letters today printing something about should Brady Tkachuk really be the captain of this team. I'm telling you, keep it up. Keep it up. Just keep it up. Well,
wait a minute.
What? Did you see that?
The Ottawa Citizen put out? No, I did not see that.
In their letters section today put out the very first letter was, should Brady Tkachuk be the captain of the Ottawa Senators? And there's a picture of him and Matthew, USA gear. Ford up. Keep it up. Just keep it up. Just keep it up. Like, I know we threw a log on the fire yesterday wondering about the anthem and Brady Tkachuk's expression, but nonetheless, keep it up. Just keep it up. This is... Hey, Tampa's going for it. We have a lot to get to today, and I want to get to Pierre McGuire early because we got a lot of stuff on the go here today. A lot of trade speculation, a trade happening moments ago. Elliot Friedman, the first on this. Pierre Lebrun from TSN and The Athletic filling in some of the blanks on it as well. So we'll get to that in a couple of moments. In the first place, Daily Outlines presented by FanDuel, North America's #1 sportsbook app provider. I should never buy a new tongue right before the show and break it in here at 3 o'clock Eastern. Pierre McGuire will stop by, NHL analyst. You know, a few things to talk to Pierre about. I am curious to see what Pierre thinks about some of the more hot-button teams out there that we wonder about, specifically in the Eastern Conference, starting with, but not exclusive to, the Detroit Red Wings. Also, we'll get his thoughts on the Tampa-Seattle deal, what that means for both squads. Yes, Zach, trades, and more trades. Vitek Vanacek, by the way, goes to the Florida Panthers. They're looking for a backup netminder. Take no offense, Chris Driedger, but Vanacek arrives for the Florida Panthers. Possible trades is always fun this time of year, a couple of days in advance of NHL trade deadline. Who could be going where? We'll get into that coming up in a couple of moments. I mean, that's always that's like grabbing water. Like that's a shifting targets at all times, depending on what happens with the games that evening, and 5 on the board tonight. As I mentioned, Jason York, former NHL defenseman. Someone who co-hosts the Coming In Hot podcast with Blake Wallace. He'll stop by and we'll talk plenty about the Ottawa Senators. Or did I say Blake? I'm thinking of Blake Price with Sakaris and Price. Brent Wallace, of course. I apologize, Wally. First day with the new tongue, first day with the new brain, apparently. And you, first day with the new haircut. Does this mean, by the way, that your team is out of the playoffs?
No,
you told me you were growing the beard. You're growing the beard, growing the hair.
Forward.
Oh, okay. So this is a small little bunny hop then?
Yeah, you know what in the words that I explained to Alberga about the new haircut, sorry for the language, but I looked like shit. So it was time to clean that up and up the level of professionalism here on the show, as I swear. Yeah.
Did not want to be single down the stretch, even though you're a very busy guy. So the Tampa Bay Lightning getting a deal done. Look, we shouldn't be surprised. I've said before, you've heard the cliche, it is the fool that bets against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And, you know, the one thing with Tampa, and I want to get into this with Pierre here in a couple of moments, the one thing about Tampa is the goalie's healthy. When you have a healthy Andrei Vasilevsky, you are a contender for the Stanley Cup if your name are the Tampa Bay Lightning. And Julien Brisebois is your general manager. With that, we'll bring on NHL analyst and our good friend Pierre McGuire to the program to talk about this and other potential trades around the NHL. Pierre, thanks so much for stopping by. As always, this, I know, is a super busy time for you, so I always appreciate it when you stop by, and especially in a week like this. Now, right away, Tampa, Seattle. I framed it like this to open the show, Pierre. Tampa is all in. They're going for it. Seattle is throwing in the towel. Your thoughts on this one?
I'm not surprised if you look at the season that Seattle's had. I think it's been really disappointing for Ronnie Francis and the ownership group there. I think they were expecting a lot more from this team.
Yep.
It obviously didn't materialize the way they wanted to, Jeff. And so I understand where they are in terms of the Tampa Bay Lightning. I loved what you said before I came on. Julian Brisebois is a smart guy. He's a slick guy. He's surrounded by really smart people. He's got a real good coach, obviously, in John Cooper, and an outstanding staff of people that know what it takes to win. But I think the biggest thing, if you look, and you touched on it, Andrei Vasilevsky, and I know everybody's talking about Connor Hellebuck, and I know everybody's talking about Igor Shesterkin.
Yeah.
I get it. There are a lot of really good goalies in the league. Right now, Andrei Vasilevsky's playing as well or better than any goalie in the league. And I don't mean any disrespect to those other guys. They're all really good, including Bobrovsky, who's a defending champion when it comes to the Stanley Cup. So they got that. They got Victor Hedman that's playing at another level. They got Braden Point and Anthony Cirelli that are playing great right now, especially coming out of, and Brandon Hagel too, coming out of the Four Nations. And then the other thing, Jeff, that I think is really important, Nikita Kucherov just warming up. He's just getting warmed up. So, I look at this whole thing with Tampa. They're legit. And I know a lot of people push them to the side. I've carefully not. The one thing I would caution everybody, do not be in the 2-3 hole in the Atlantic Division. If you're in the 2-3 hole, a real good team's going out. So if I'm Toronto, I'm winning. Just load up and just keep winning.
Well,
points.
That takes us to an interesting area here, and that is Florida's made a big move. They may make others. We'll see. Bringing in Seth Jones. Now Tampa has made their big move. If you're Brad Treliving, general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, do you need to follow with something here? Toronto's facing off against Vegas tonight. We expect, Kelly McCrimmon keeps saying, "Oh, we're going to be quiet. We're going to be quiet." I'm like, you know what? The name's Tucker, not Sucker. Sell that to the tourists. I'm one of the locals. We've seen this act before, but nonetheless, if you're the Maple Leafs, do you need to respond here?
Yeah, you do. I used to have the trade deadline all the time. I used to talk to Bobby McKenzie and Gordon Miller all the time about this team's done that team's done this. These guys need to respond, and if they don't, they're not going to win. And you can go track that back to 1999 even. When it really became a big thing, the trade show became a big thing starting in the late 90s. And I would say, look, Toronto's got some things that they got to work out. Toronto's got to work out the third center position, and I still think they need a top-end puck mover on the back end, somebody that can clearly run a power play and help out. I don't like the scheme of 5 forwards, Jeff. I just don't like it. I don't think it's good. And it's too easy in the playoffs when you play a team every other night, for 14 nights. It's too easy to load up and take away options when you're playing against 5 forwards. I can just tell you that right now. So all that being said, I do think that they need to respond, but I haven't seen a Toronto team this good since Pat Quinn was running it. I really haven't.
So what's the difference then? There's I see one casualty here, and that's Morgan Rielly is having a real hard time playing defense the way that Craig Berube wants. I mean, he doesn't gallop the puck out of the zone anymore. Berube wants defensemen to stay around the nets. Mind your knitting, clean up your room, young man. That's the style. That's what Berube wants his defensemen to do. But that seems to really be the only casualty here. Every year we're all guilty of saying the same thing about the Toronto Maple Leafs. This year feels different, and then it's the same results. Why, Pierre, is it different this year, again?
Because they're playing playoff games in the regular season. They're not blowing teams out. Every game is tight. They're playing a playoff style. So defensemen are learning how to defend the way he wants them to. Centermen are grinding on faceoffs, especially a guy like David Kampf. Everybody knows that Austin Matthews and Johnny Tavares are going to win faceoffs. They need other guys to win faceoffs. I know Max Domi hasn't had a great year offensively, but he's doing things, whether it's playing right wing on the first line or playing center on the third line or pinch hitting on the second line. He's providing them energy. He's providing some grit. He's providing some defensive awareness. But I think the biggest thing is Christopher Tanev is there. Oliver Ekman-Larsson's there. These are really important players for this team. Yeah. And I think they stole the summer last summer, Jeff, and I don't know if you've talked about it before, but getting Stolars on 2 years at $2.5 million a year was huge. And that insulates Wall, obviously. And I just think Toronto, they're deeper, they're better, and they understand how to play playoff hockey.
You know what it kind of feels like? I'm a big baseball guy and always been a big Blue Jays fan. And listen, so I grew up watching the Toronto Blue Jays having wonderful seasons in the AL East. Again, there's the Yankees and there's the Red Sox. And it didn't matter how well the Blue Jays did, it's going to be the Red Sox or it's going to be the Yankees. And you look at this Maple Leafs team, and around them are Stanley Cup winners in Tampa, in Florida, in the Boston Bruins in 2011. One of the things, and again, it's going to sound like, and I don't have a horse in this race. I really don't care. But if you're looking at the Toronto Maple Leafs, you look at yourself and you say, if they played in a different division, how would we feel about the Toronto Maple Leafs right now? If this was a team that played in the Metropolitan, how would we be feeling about the Toronto Maple Leafs and didn't have to go up against Tampa and Florida and Boston all these years?
Yeah, no, you'd feel real good about them, I think. Honestly, you would. Now, the one caveat to that is in 16 and 17, you had a pretty good team from Pittsburgh, and you had some pretty good New York Ranger teams, and you had some pretty good Carolina teams. But I'm with you on that. I think that's a really good thing. Jeff, I don't know, again, if you've talked about it much, I think the playoff format needs to be looked at by the Board of Governors and the competition committee. I really do. I'm not trying to make excuses for anybody, but I Tampa, Florida, Toronto, do you really want one of those teams or maybe two of those teams out in the first round? I don't think so. I wouldn't.
What would you prefer?
1 versus 8.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping you were going to go Quebec League and say 1v16, like it used to be.
I'm old enough to remember, and I think you are too.
Yes.
I remember watching the LA Kings play against the New York Rangers in a best 3 out of 5. One of my former players, Larry Murphy, was playing for the LA Kings in that series, and that was kind of crazy when you think about it. I don't think teams would want to pay that kind of money just to fly teams back and forth in the first round.
Was that? Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit off script here a little bit, but there was a Kings Rangers. I think it was a series or a home and home where there was a big brawl, and they were both on the same. This is before everyone had charters. They were both on the same flight going back to L.A. And apparently it was one of those, like, I've heard this. Pete Weber told me this story because he would have been with the Kings, and he's like, it was one of the quietest flights we'd ever been on because these guys just like beat the crap out of each other and then had to hop on the same plane.
Well, I just got done working at Mario Lemieux's fantasy camp, and Larry Murphy was there. He was on my team.
Yeah.
And Larry and I were reminiscing about old days and things we had done and all this stuff. And that's one of the things that came up because I was talking to him about playoffs.
Yeah.
And I said, Larry, I'd like to see it go 1 through 8. He goes, yeah, a lot of good teams get knocked out early in this format right now. And then he said, well, when I played, there was once in LA, 1 versus 16. And that's how it went. He says, we played the Rangers.
Yeah.
And he goes, can you imagine like doing that coast to coast? I don't know if guys would be in the mood to be doing that in the first round.
I understand that. Now here this is the counter argument that I always throw at the reformat the playoffs argument. So knowing that playoffs are the war of attrition, we've all heard about it. You need to load up. What you look like at the end is not what you look like at the beginning. We all understand that. It's one of the things we love about hockey. There's a big part of me, Pierre, that says, you know what? I want 2 teams. I want the 2 best teams I can find to face off against each other at the height of their powers. Like I want Tampa and Florida or Toronto and Tampa or whomever in that mix. I want them to face off against each other when they're at their freshest. I don't want to see them a couple rounds in. I want to see them right away. It means that one team's going home, really good team's going home, but would you cozy up to that argument at all that you'll get the best hockey this way, at least in the first round?
If I was in the media, I'm totally on Jeff Marek's side. If I'm a manager or coach, I'm not sure I'm buying in. I'll give you an example. Last year, Tampa plays Florida in the first round.
Yeah. It's
a 5-game series. It's over in 5 games. Tampa goes home. I'm not sure that they're buying in on that in Tampa. A lot of the margin, and Jeff, I hate to beat people up with the economy of hockey because we got enough stuff going on.
Yep.
A lot of these teams are budgeted to get to the second round. If they don't get to the second round, they're not making money. And I know people don't want to talk about that, and I know everything's hunky-dory in the NHL. I get all the messaging and the salary. I get everything. But I'm just telling you the reality of this business.
Yeah.
I've seen line item budgets in the NHL. I've been in front office. I know what the dollars and cents are. It's not as profitable a business as a lot of people think.
So let me use that to dovetail to Vancouver then, because Vancouver is very much a get into the playoffs. We're not taking a step back. We're not taking a couple of steps back here and gonna run it back in a couple of years. Like the Vancouver Canucks organization very much feels like just get in every year, just get in. Don't worry about next year. Just get in. Do you think that is complicating things right now for Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin, where we may look at this and Pettersson's having the season that Pettersson is having, and now Quinn Hughes, who's not going to play tonight, something happened in the game against Seattle, and this is the last Vancouver Canucks game before the trade deadline, so we wonder if it's the last time we're going to see Brock Besser. Do you think that the just get in because the owner's got to make a little bit of money here, do you think that complicates the Vancouver Canucks at deadline?
I don't this year. I really don't. They've had so much drama going on around their team. I think they're bigger questions. How are they set up for the future? What are you going to do with Rick Tocchet? His contract's up at the end of the year. How does Jim Rutherford, how does he respond to this? This has clearly been an underwhelming year for them. The expectation was a lot greater than where they are right now, Jeff. I think you would agree with that. So I don't think the ownership part complicates their decision making. I think they're kind of focusing in on, we'll do our best to try to make it this year, but we're gunning up to be down the road. Realistically, do you see them beating a healthy Dallas team or a Vegas team?
No.
I don't. I'm just being realistic. I just don't see that happening right now.
It's underperformance and poor health. Like last year, everything worked great. They were healthy. Everybody performed. Career years up and down the lineup. They were all winning all the hardware, all of it. And, PDO benders for a lot of guys, like the whole team. So and then this year, this is just the reality of a really tough hockey season. And generally, every now and then there's a couple of teams that can escape it and dodge a little bit, but 82 games is hard. 82 games tests your depth. 82 games tests what you have under the hood. This is they weren't going to have another season like they did last year where everything worked out perfectly, Pierre.
It's interesting, Jeff, you talk about that, and I couldn't agree with you more. And then the other side of it is there's one team in the West that's like that, Vancouver, where there's been a lot of drama. There's one team in the East that's like that. They're starting to surge a little bit, the New York Rangers. And so this is almost kind of be a race for both of those teams to see if they can get in. With all the drama that's been around both teams right from the start of the year, it's been amazing to watch. The one thing I would say, and I don't know what happened in Vancouver with JT Miller and all the other players. I don't know, and I really don't want to know. All I can tell you is since JT Miller got to the New York Rangers, they've become a really good team.
Yeah.
They've gotten to the level where they were supposed to be playing all year long.
And Chris Drury's already made a move. Do you see them being even more active here before Friday at 3 Eastern?
I do. I think they will be. I really do. I think they will be, whether it's adding another defenseman. The one thing I would say, Jeff, about Rangers too, there are a lot of guys that got to look in the mirror on that defense. They haven't gotten better this year. I know they're dealing with an Adam Fox injury situation.
Yep.
Counting a lot more on Keandre Miller to be better. He hasn't been. Was counting a lot more on Braden Schneider to be better. He hasn't been. Ryan Lindgren, before he got traded, was dealing with a whack injuries, but he wasn't playing really well, to be fair. So there are a lot of guys there that haven't gotten better, and they need them to get better.
The most interesting seller to you, Pierre, this time around, for me, it's the Buffalo Sabres, who I believe could do anything. I think Kevin Adams has everything on the table, like Jordan Greenway's re-signing, and I also, I don't know that he's the only one that ends up re-signing there, but nonetheless, I think that Kevin Adams would entertain conversations on anybody on that roster. Agree, disagree?
I do as well. So here's my caveat to the whole thing. If ownership decides that, you know what, we've seen enough from this management team, let's just pull the reins back. We're going to address our needs in the offseason. If we don't see them being active going into the trade deadline, then I think that could be a problem for upper management there. That
The
could be a
interesting,
problem.
the interesting thing about that is too, like last night was a real tough one. So last night the San Jose Sharks go into the Key Bank. It's back to back for one of the worst teams
Both
in the
teams.
NHL.
Yep.
Like it's lining up like it could be a good night for the Buffalo Sabres here. Unfortunately, it wasn't, and third period rolls around, and Seattle rolls all over the Buffalo Sabres. And the awkward thing there is, and I'm guessing on this, but considering it's trade deadline week, I'm guessing everybody was there, like everybody from Sabres, like everybody is there, and like listen, the building was quiet outside of the Fire Kevin chants. It must have made for one of the most uncomfortable experiences for that entire management group. And that's the message that Buffalo Sabres fans are sending right now. So listen, I'm with you. Like if Terry Pegula decides that, hang on a second here, no, we need a real course correction at a lot of levels. And we heard that at the beginning of the season. If there's no playoffs, there's going to be pink slips. And I still do wonder whether that actually happens. Does it feel that way to you?
I don't know, but what I found curious the other day watching the Montreal game on Monday night, with Montreal getting that quick 3-0 lead, and then you see the wherewithal and the compete from the Buffalo Sabres. I was really, especially Rasmus Dahlin, I was really impressed with the way he competed physically and athletically, which is a good sign for them because they need him to be one of their best players. But here's the thing on that, Jeff. I didn't see Kevin Adams in the box. They showed the box upstairs, and they showed an assistant coach upstairs, and they showed maybe a pro scout, but there was no general manager there. So whether he was out scouting or whether he was home monitoring and working the phones, I don't know what Kevin was doing. And I'm not trying to speculate about anybody's job because I've been fired twice, and it's not a lot of fun. It's just not a lot of fun to be fired. But I would just tell you that if we don't see a lot of movement or some I think because ownership said, enough. We've seen it. We're course correcting.
Let me ask about a couple of other things. It was a real, and first of all, I think Shannon Hogan did a great job with this interview, and Brock Nelson really tried to keep it together in that bench side interview with Shannon last night. But you can tell how much he's feeling it and how much he's wearing it right now. Do you have a thought on the Islanders? Do you have a thought on Brock Nelson? And we'll play the video a little bit later on here on the show. Yeah. But that was we always wonder about real moments. That was a real moment for Brock Nelson.
It really was, and I like the way you presented that too, because I think that's a fair way to do it. Shannon did do a very good job on that. No, those are hard interviews to do, as you know, when the emotion kicks in. I did that with Teemu Selanne in 2007 after they won the Cup in Anaheim. It was. I said to him after, I said, Teemu, man, you almost made me bawl. I know what to do. So, yeah, no, that stuff happened. Brock is as you know, Brock's a good player, and he's a valuable player. And he I would say that anything less than a first-round pick going to the Islanders for Brock Nelson, I wouldn't trade. I mean, I wouldn't trade him. But they probably will. They probably will trade him. How many teams can find center icemen like him? We keep hearing – you got to get that two center. You got to get that. Could you imagine if Brock Nelson was your third line center in Toronto?
Yeah,
would that fit?
Do you want to talk about the ultimate luxury item? Like, wait a minute, you have Brock Nelson as your third line center?
I had this amazing dream that Brock Nelson ends up in Toronto and Roman Josi ends up in Toronto.
Well, let's see.
Fantasy Island. Okay?
Let's play the agent game. That's a Judd Moldaver client. I believe there's some other significant Judd Moldaver clients on the Toronto Maple Leafs there. It's kind of a Wasserman-friendly team. I'm just throwing logs on the fire. But you know what? Here, but okay. So that brings us to one more team. This is fun with you because we can bounce all over the place here, and you're sort of leading me here. I love this. So Roman Josi with the Nashville Predators. That's a big win last night for them over the Boston Bruins. Mm-hmm. But man, the wheels came off the wagon early for the Nashville Predators, and they're never able to get the car back on the road once it went into the ditch. What do you do if you're Barry Trotz at this point? I mean, I know everyone's sort of circling around the Ryan O'Reillys of the team, but man, you're Barry Trotz, your relatively new general manager. What do you do?
I'd be watching University of Massachusetts at Amherst. They got a player there, Cole O'Hara, that's one of the leading scorers in college hockey, draft pick of theirs. I'd be trying to get him out of school once the season was over. He's going to be a very good pro player. But in all seriousness, I would be desperately trying to get some youthful enthusiasm into my lineup and be a harder team to play against physically. I don't know what happened there. And it's a curious exercise. I think you would agree. Barry and Andrew Burnett, I remember watching them in Portland, and Bruno was such a good player at that level and obviously a real good goal scorer in the NHL. But I remember watching those guys. Barry was coaching and Andrew was playing in Portland, and they won the Calder Cup. I mean, there was an edge to those teams. They were a nasty piece of business to play against. I don't see Nashville being like that. Do you, Jeff? I just don't see that.
The weird thing about that is, Pierre, if you go back like historically with Nashville, like going back to day one, and you were there, they've always had a bite to them.
Hey,
like
Stu Grimson played there. Yeah.
Keep going, like Darcy Hordichuk. Like there's so many guys that have Jim McKenzie, like go all the way through. There's so many. They always had something. They always had sluggers. They always had some nastiness. I mean, the one thing that they've always tried to find is more goal scoring. The whole thing was built on goalies in the back end, as we all know. But you're right. Like the bite's not there with Nashville anymore. I think you're 100%. You're 100% right with that one.
It's weird for me because I like to think I'm a good friend of Barry Trotz. I've known him a long time, and I know the kind of hockey he likes. And I don't think his team's playing the kind of hockey like. And I know Andrew Burnett. I've known him since he played, in Owen Sound, and I, he played on a line with Kirk Maltby and Scott Walker. That's how far back I go with this guy. Okay, like.
Led the OHL in scoring. Couldn't skate. Cement in the boots. 150 points.
He gets points. And could you imagine that was a line in junior? Maltby, Walker, and
early
Burnett.
90s.
I mean, it's just amazing to watch. And I'm going, okay, both these guys, I know them. They're tough guys. They're hard guys. Why isn't their team like that? Usually the team takes on the persona of the people that are leading the team. Yeah. And for whatever reason, that's not happening.
It's a bizarre one. Speaking of toughness, Matthew Olivier gets a nice little contract extension here. Good on him. It is a six-year deal, $18 million, $3 million on the AAV. We mentioned luxury items a second ago. Here's a guy who's the toughest player, with all due respect, toughest fighter in the NHL, plays third line, starts games, straightens everybody out, who looks sideways at any of the kids. So happy this guy got rewarded. Good on Columbus, good on Cortex, who'd be the agency there. Just a real nice deal for Matthew Olivier. Good to see him ring the bell and get some security.
100%. That's the key word, the security. I'm so happy for him. Yeah. And I'm really happy for Jake Evans in Montreal. Almost the same kind of thing. 4 years, $3 million, almost $3 million a year, 2.85, I think, a year. There's one other guy I would like to see get security. I think Ryan Donato's played on 5 teams in the NHL.
Yes, yeah.
Boston, Minnesota, San Jose, Seattle, Chicago. I think I got it right. Okay? He's got 23 goals, I think, right now. Playing on you would agree, not a great team.
Yeah.
And he merits security. And, you talk about all these agencies. His agent's Matt Cater. Matt Cater's done some huge contracts. Zdeno Chara being one of them. And you go down the line of some of his clients. Adam Fox, Chris Kreider, Alex Killorn have been some of his clients. That's another guy. He's near the end. He's closer to the end than he is at the beginning.
So here's what I thought of. Because I'm glad you mentioned Jake Evans, because I was thinking about teams who didn't get Jake Evans, and is the pivot Ryan Donato. Like, Montreal re-signs Evans. So who's going to pivot and look at Ryan Donato now? And the team that popped out at me right away, the Dallas Stars.
So we didn't rehearse this show.
Could you see Dallas?
Right now, Dallas Stars is where I think there's a fit for him.
Yes.
100% agreed. And look at, again, we don't rehearse this. We don't talk about the show. No. I should come up, and we're glad to be with you. That's a team where I think it's the best fit for him.
It is interesting, Dallas. I still don't think that Jim Nill is anywhere close to that. I could see Ryan Donato there. I still think that Jim Nill wants to swing for the fence here. I think that there were times where they were very interested in like Nazem Kadri and Rasmus Anderson. Things have gone the way they have in Calgary, and they're not going to let them go unless there's a major change of heart. Although I'll tell you, Pierre, I did wonder if things went south against Philadelphia, would that change Craig Conroy's decision on his players? I know they all have term, so you're not forced into it, but right? Like it was like Philadelphia last year. No, we're not going to do it. No, we're not going to do it. And then trade deadline comes around. Yeah, okay, we're going to do it. And it's trade.
What's the value? I'm curious because he's one of my favorite players in the league, and he doesn't get a lot of exposure because Calgary's not a national TV team. They're just not at this point. What about Rasmus Anderson? The value of that, like, what's his value?
I'd re-sign
on the
him.
market?
I'd try to I would do everything that I could to re-sign him.
Yeah. So we agree. I think he's worth more to you as a signed player than he is as a traded player.
Yes.
So we agree on that. 100%.
Especially when you look at like all the young defenders coming in, all the young defenders for the Calgary Flames coming in. Like I would have Rasmus Anderson there. Again, it's up to him. It takes two, but I mean, to me, he's much more valuable as an asset to keep, as not just as an investment for the team right now, but also for all those young defenders on the horizon. Like, listen, man, Zane Parekh is coming. Zane Parekh is coming with the Calgary Flames, and I can't think of anyone else better in that organization to have Zane Parekh learn from than Rasmus Anderson, or have there for Zane Parekh. This guy, as you know, Pierre, is special. This guy is.
I don't want to make Hockey Canada people mad at me, but we have an explanation, please.
I know. You know, it's funny, and here's a name. Unfortunately, the end was tragic for him. But you know, I look at Zane Parekh and how he can take over games. The only other guy from the back end, really, that I saw with my own eyes take over games in the OHL like that was Brian Fogarty.
Fogarty was really
take
good.
over games.
I had the privilege to coach him, in Pittsburgh, and very tragic what happened there. Very, very tragic. You know, the one thing I would say, there's a guy named Christopher Pronger that wasn't bad taking over games.
I guess I should probably throw Peterborough Pete Pronger in there too. I did watch him.
I just don't want him mad
too.
at me.
Nah.
I don't want my role player mad at me. We have a very good relationship. I want to maintain that.
But the thing is, I'll separate Pronger because there was a nastiness that he had that was without equal, and whether he was playing in the OHL or playing in the NHL, starting with the Hartford Whalers, as you well know, there was no one else like Chris Pronger. No one else.
Not in that era. You know, I called the day we got him in the draft. Brian Burke, masterful getting that done. By the way, Brian never gets enough credit for that, Jeff. That was at the draft floor in the Coliseum, Quebec. No air conditioning. Everybody was melting on the floor. It was so hot there that day. Yeah. I called Scotty Bowman right after we drafted Pronger, and I said, "How did you coach Larry Robinson?" And he told me a bunch of different things. And I started to implement some of those things with Chris when we got him.
Eh?
Yeah, and one of them was to get him to move his feet because it was too easy a game. He was playing in a rocking chair.
Yeah.
So you get behind him, and those days I could skate okay. And I would hit him with my stick. And one day I thought he was going to turn around and tomahawk me right over the head.
Wow. And he would have played in one of the most unique barns too. He played in Peterborough. We had those like really, really tight corners. Like and it was like, if you think of, and I guess Niagara Falls would have been really, really tiny at that point too. St. Mike's certainly.
He was in Niagara Falls, right? Fogarty was in
Niagara Falls. Fogarty's Niagara Falls. Yeah. No, he was a Niagara Falls Thunder. But that must have been a nasty time playing against Chris Pronger in Peterborough. Okay, really quickly, a couple of things left. The team that you're most interested in now at deadline, whether it be buying or it be selling, we'll leave you on this one. Which one has got your curiosity?
Toronto buying. I'm really curious to see how much they want to push into the middle of the table to try to go all in. I really want to see that. I think they know they have a real special thing going on there. They got a real good coaching staff. They've got elite players. I think their depth and goal is really good. They're built to try to win now. So I think that's a team I'm most curious to see what they do within the next 48 hours or so.
I did mention I was going to ask you about the Detroit Red Wings off the top. So let me ask you, patience lasts a certain point. It is Steve Yzerman, albeit we started this conversation off talking about Tampa and the foundations there were laid by Steve Yzerman. Your thoughts on the Yzer plan, where it's at now and where it's at come Friday, 3:00 Eastern?
I think it was a lot better once they made a coaching change. No disrespect meant to the previous coaching staff, but since they made the coaching change, it's been a much better team. That's number one. So that Steve deserves a lot of credit. That's a hard thing to do. It's a real hard thing to let a coach go that you really like a lot, and he did that. And so I respect him for that. I think he's done some really good things with Sean Harkoff and Chris Draper and their amateur scouting staff. They've been really good on it. They've stockpiled a lot of players down in Grand Rapids. They got a lot of guys outside the NHL that are really high-end prospects. I wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe move some of those prospects to try to get established players to put themselves over the top. Look at the development of Simon Edvinsson this year.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff. He's everybody talks about Moritz Seider. I remember being at a game in Frölunda, and Horkoff was there, Draper was there, and Håkan Andersson was there. Like it was unbelievable how many just to watch Simon. So, he's become. I think he's going to be one of those breakout players next year. People are going to say, "Holy moly, this guy's really good."
Marco Kasper, I can't get enough of watching this.
So that's
love him.
The hockey. He's an eye test player, right? He's a guy. You don't look at the numbers with him. He's a guy that makes stuff happen. Board plays good, slot area presence good, can play center, can play wing, physical, not intimidated. He's everything you want.
Legit. Listen, you parked a lot of time with us today. Much appreciated, my good friend. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy trade deadline. Saturday, 3 p.m. It is all over. Thanks, pal.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of the week.
There he is, the great Pierre McGuire, who joins us here on a regular basis on the sheet, and a long time NHL analyst. And he's done it all as either an analyst or a coach or a manager or scout. Like he's walked in a lot of different shoes in the NHL. Want to remind you as well, and Jason York is coming up here in a couple of moments, former NHL defenseman, along with Brent Wally. One half of the Coming In Hot podcast. Want to remind you, Canada, pay attention. Wise up. Your favorite contest is back. Roll Up to Win is back at Tim Hortons, and that means you could win millions of amazing prizes with just the swipe of a thumb. Imagine turning your routine Tim's run into an unforgettable vacation with Sell-Off Vacations, a $1,000 Rakuten cash prize, or an all-new, all-electric 2025 Volkswagen ID Buzz. Even the simple joy of winning a free coffee or donut can make anyone's day. That's true. But you only have until March 23rd, so open up that Tim's app and get rolling. This is our game, Canada. Don't let this chance at $1 million of amazing prizes pass you by. Play Roll Up to Win on the Tim's app right now. Rules apply. Canada only. No purchase necessary. Visit the Tim's app for details. Zach Phillips. Anything stand out from our conversation with Pierre? For you?
Yeah. I liked the dream that he had. I think I've had similar dreams about Toronto and Roman Josi and that kind of stuff. I didn't mind that dream. But I liked what he said about having to respond and Toronto having to respond. I put it in the chat there. That's the poll that's up right now. And I put 4 options. Does Toronto need to respond after the Florida-Tampa trades? Yes, and they will. Yes, but they won't. No, but they will. And no, and they won't. Right now, it seems like the leading candidate is yes, but they won't at 51%. Yeah. I mean, Pierre there said they need to respond, and I agree 100%. You have to respond. Look, how many times have they walked away from deadlines with their hands in their pockets? And you've watched Florida, Tampa, Boston, Carolina's tried it. They've all gone and made trades. And I know people, and I do agree for the most part, have said, you don't win the Stanley Cup at the deadline. And that's true. It's the moves you make elsewhere. But we watch all these other teams around us here, and I'm saying us, like I'm on the team.
What number do you wear?
Typical. Yeah, but you watch all these teams around Toronto, that is, watching them going and adding and getting better every single year. Toronto won one trade deadline, in my opinion, Jeff, and they got Jake McCabe and they got Ryan O'Reilly. And they won a round. Whether you want to chalk that up to luck or whatever it may be, they won one deadline, I thought. Since then and before then, hasn't really happened. I just can't feel I can't feel comfortable walking away from a deadline if not really doing much. So I agree with Pierre. You got to go and you got to make some things happen. You just have to try.
This will cost. See, here's what you have to be comfortable with. This will cost you Easton Cowan, Fraser Minton, first-round draft pick, Ben Danford. By the way,
you're talking to the wrong person, though.
Ben Danford looks so good in Oshawa. I don't know how many Oshawa Generals. He looks awesome.
I know
Danford looks really good. That's a great pick.
I know.
Toronto.
You're talking to the wrong person. I'm comfortable with that. I know those guys are great players. I know that they are probably going to be solid NHL players, reliable NHL players. But every year you look around and say, hey, we've got a team that can win now. But, oh, wait, we're not willing to sacrifice something that might help us win in 3 to 5 years because they're there. And I get it. There's balancing these things. But, like, at what point do you just say this is
but the
a
great
team
teams
that we think
don't
can win? Let's go.
But here's the thing: the great teams don't. Right? You know what I find the great teams do? They fire off all their fireworks during the year, and then they take the summer and say, okay, here's where we're going to clean up our cap. We'll worry about it. We'll worry about it in the summer. Best example of that is Vegas, and that's why even though Kelly McCrimmon's going around saying, oh no, it's going to be a silent night around Vegas, nobody believes him. Because that's not that's not how they do business. They just like shoot the lights out in the regular season, spend it all, and then clean it all up in the off season. And that's what Tampa is doing. That's what Florida has done, and that's what they've done. And what do they all have in common? They've won Stanley Cups.
They've got cups. Yeah.
They've got cups.
Yeah.
They got cups.
And they might flame out. Like the Penguins, yeah, they're in. Let's call the Penguins in Chicago's current situation shambles. Let's just use that word to describe where they're at. They won cups, though. Is that not the goal? Yeah. Like, you told me that Burke tells you one team wins the cup. Why not try your best to be the team that does it?
Brian texted me.
It might not work, but try.
I got to say it. So we're halfway through the show yesterday. I'm going to get to Jason, who's standing by. So Burkey texted me halfway through the show yesterday. I'm going to try to do my best Brian Burke voice. This line is never not funny. And around this time of year and free agency, I get the same text from. I'll get one today. Marek, I checked with the league again. They're still only handing out one cup. It's never not funny. They're still only handing out one cup this year, bud. I just checked with the league again. Only one cup. Let's get to the York Chop. Our good friend Jason York from the Coming In Hot podcast joins me here on the sheet. Jason, I don't know if you got the memo, but Brian Burke would like to remind everybody he checked with the NHL and they're only awarding one Stanley Cup again this year. Can you believe it?
Oh, yeah. It's funny how that works, isn't it, Jeff? They only give one every year. Everybody wants it. And you got there's only one team happy every year, and that's the team that wins the Stanley Cup. So,
yes.
Exciting day today. Fireworks are off.
It's an exciting day so far, and we'll see what happens between now and Friday at 3:00 Eastern. By the way, looking very dapper, Yorkie. I gotta say,
so?
like you're looking sharp. Like I don't know, you dragged a razor across your face, maybe a little bit, at least on the sides. Maybe you got the mustache going a little bit. Like you comb the feathers nice. You're looking good, York Chop. You're looking good, bud.
I'm on the sheet here. I had to take off the hat, put a little mousse in there. You gotta look good. Your hair game's on point.
No, this is like I look like the craft. My hair, like, dude, you know what I've realized in my life? My hair looks like the Kraft peanut butter bear. Like next time you're at the grocery store, go down the aisle where they have the peanut butters and the jams, and go grab the Kraft and look at that's my hair. The Kraft peanut butter hair. Look, that is my hair.
Does the Kraft peanut butter bear have hair? I gotta. So obviously he does because you're saying
it's the loaf that I have on my head right now, bud. That's me.
All right, that's okay. My next assignment. I got to go to the grocery store and check out the Kraft peanut butter.
Okay, so now that you've cleaned yourself up, now you have to actually leave the house, Yorkie. That's your next battle. Now you can't just stay and watch hockey games and open tins. Yeah. Now you got to actually leave the house. How about that?
Well, I am leaving. I'm leaving the house. I've got an assignment tomorrow to check out the Kraft peanut butter bear, and I got to go to it. I guess I could go online and get a picture, but it's better to see it in person.
Giving you homework. Okay. So a couple of things. Where are the Ottawa Senators at in advance of trade deadline? And I do want to park a little bit of time to talk about Brady Tkachuk. But first, where are the Sens at as you can see it right now?
Well, I'll tell you, Jeff. They are currently 1 point out of the playoffs, which is a spot they haven't been in I don't know 7 or 8 years. Being this late in the season. And being still in the game, still having skin in the game, something to play for. I think they're exactly, players always think they're going to be a little bit better, but I think they're exactly where Steve Staios, Dave Pula, and Michael Hanwauer and the whole staff there thought where they would be. And that's battling for one of those wild card spots right now, because that's truly where they are. And I think that's a good place for them right now. And the nice thing about them, Jeff, they control their own destiny. Like their schedule coming up, they're playing all the teams that are surrounding those last two wild card spots. So it's
Right.
you know what I'm a glass half full guy. This is exciting. As a player, as a former player, this is what you want. A chance to make the playoffs. You control it. Tonight they got to win that game, and they got a massive game against the Rangers on Saturday. So it's I think it's exciting times right now in Ottawa, and I think they're in a good place.
Ottawa faces off against Chicago. The one thing that you look at a game like this, and you can talk to me as a player, and I don't like saying ex-player. Like once you play in the NHL, like you're a player. Like Jason York, NHL player.
Yeah.
But so these are games that you can't squander. Like the Maple Leafs lost one earlier this week against the San Jose Sharks. You look at it and go, happens. But when you're, I mean, you know the feeling, right? Like when you're battling, like these are the ones you have to have, right? Like going into this game against Chicago, this is one where we're taking 2. We're taking 2 points.
The problem is, like I mentioned, there's so many teams hovering around those last 2 spots. So you got to bank these 2 points tonight. And I don't think, like we had our pod this morning, I don't think they're going to get off to a slow start, because the good thing is you just had 2 games where you had 2 atrocious starts. You got behind in the San Jose game. You got down 3 Cobb against Washington. They came back, got a point, was huge. So they know what's at stake here. And you look at the guys they brought in, Jeff. Like they brought in David Perron, they brought in Amadio. Giroux's been here now for a couple of years. Guys like that, Nick Jensen, those guys know what it's like to be in these kind of situations. So they didn't really have that before surrounding their young players. So those guys are going to step in and just kind of be, you walk into the game and now these players like Tkachuk, like Batherson, like Norris, they haven't been in this situation before, but they're not facing it alone. They've got some experience beside them, guys like that. And don't forget Allmark. Like Allmark's a guy that's got some experience. So I expect him to be huge down the stretch here for Ottawa. So it's like I said, this is fun times here in Ottawa right now. They haven't been in this situation in a long time.
To me, this all pivots around Allmark. And
100%.
like this is a chance.
Jeff.
I look at this right now, this moment right now for the Ottawa Senators in the position that they're in and the opportunity in front of them. One of the knocks on Allmark has always been, even though he's got a Vezina in his hip pocket, outside of that time in Rochester in the American Hockey League, there hasn't been a big pressure, show me, do it, will a team to victory moment or success story for Linus Ullmark in his career yet. Wasn't there with Buffalo. They never made the playoffs. Wasn't really there with Boston as well. That was the Swayman show come postseason. There has never been in his career that high pressure situation where he said, you know what, guys, time to bite down on the mouth guard, because that's what I'm gonna do. And we're going to win these games, and we're going to get there. We're going to get to the playoffs, or we're going to achieve something. That hasn't been there yet in Ullmark's career. This is a chance for him to rewrite that.
You just made me think, the goalies actually wear mouth guards? I don't know the answer to that.
It's a good question.
I should know that. I don't know the. I don't think they do. But
I don't think they do. I'm the wrong guy to ask about mouth guards, because I'm one of those guys that doesn't believe that they prevent concussions. But nonetheless, here come the angry DMs and emails from doctors. But I don't believe that they do.
I like the visual you gave me there of Allmark. It's time to go. It's time to bear down. But yeah, listen, you're right. You're right. Like this is a show me league. People are already talking about the Winnipeg Jets and Connor Hellebuck, that he hasn't won anything, and it's time for him to show up in the playoffs. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Ullmark, well, just look. The Rangers are going to go as far as probably Shesterkin takes them, right? And what did he do last game?
Same as last year.
What did he do last game? He just threw down he got a shutter. So this is the time of year when your big game. This is why you get a big game goalie for to be in these positions, to go out, stabilize your team. And you don't have to be all world either. You just got to give your team a chance to win, because that's the thing Ottawa hasn't had in the past, Jeff. You look at the teams they've had, look at their save percentage last year. I think it was one of the worst in the NHL. Where did they finish? One of the worst teams in the league. So I don't think Ullmark's got to be a savior. I just think he has to be good enough to give this team a chance to, because they play differently now, Jeff. Like for the most parts of this year, They play with much better structure. They don't give you as much. I know they gave 41 shots to Washington. Washington's a good team. I think they're going to get back to playing they were when they were rolling off wins, playing tight. Like this team went into Boston a couple months ago and didn't allow a shot on goal in the third period of the Boston Bruins. That's pretty tough to do on the road. So I'm foreseeing this team tightening things up.
Yeah.
Allmark doesn't have to be a savior, but he's got to be good. 100% he's got to be good. And we'll see. Like, I agree. Has he had the big game moment? No, but maybe it's coming. So let's hold on and see what happens.
So Drake Batherson's name has sort of spread itself out there in the could the Ottawa Senators do something here? Do you bite on that toe drag? That is Drake Batherson getting moved. Do you bite on that one, Yorkie?
I'm a Drake guy. I like here's the thing with Batherson. Right now, you can tell the way he's playing, the confidence is quite not there where it was early in the season, because he had a stretch this year, Jeff, where you could have made an argument he was Ottawa's best forward. That's how good he was playing. Right now, he's had a couple defensive miscues. He's not putting up numbers. But this is what I like about him. This number one, he got a great contract. Like if you want to get a talented player in this league, you're going to have to normally pay upwards of $5-6 million for this. Like Batherson's contracts, I believe, is in the high fours. So is he ever going to be a driver all the time? I don't know, but I think for the value, he's a really good player. Right now, he's struggling. This is a great opportunity again for him to snap out of that slump tonight. But I like the player. I think there's a ton of skill there. I think he's great on the power play. Is he perfect defensively? Absolutely not. But I think he's a really good player when you have Stützle as your best player and Tkachuk, and then you surround with really talented guys like Batherson. The thing with Batherson, he's really good when he's physical. And I think he just needs to get back to that. Play physical again, play simple, and his game will round back into form.
Okay, I don't want to be accused of soft tampering here, which is a delicious term that we learned this year. But I do want to entertain a quick conversation about Brady Tkachuk. Now, I'll admit, I threw a log on the fire yesterday. We all saw the expression standing at the line during the U.S. anthem and the booing, etc. Okay, so we had a quick conversation about that yesterday here on the show, me and Wyshynski. And then today in the Ottawa Citizen, they published a letter about should Brady Tkachuk be the captain of this team, complete with a picture of Brady and Matthew and the USA and all that. And I'm saying to myself, you're doing it. Keep, you're if you want Brady Tkachuk out, you're doing it. Where do you see this conversation? Because coming out of Four Nations, the Tkachuk brothers turned into Captain America, Captains America. And between that and the anthem and the Ottawa Citizen publishing very high profile, call it newspaper clickbait about should Brady Tkachuk be the captain of this team, et cetera, if you want to roll the red carpet, if you're trying to drive him to the airport, this is the way you do it. If you want to get him, drive him, this is the way you do. What do you make of this, Yorkie?
Of the anthems being booed, or with Tkachuk?
No, with Tkachuk.
Here's the thing.
Is this going to resonate with him at all? More, I'm just asking you to comment on the entire situation and the entire conversation around Brady Tkachuk with the Ottawa Senators right now.
Listen, here's the thing with Brady Tkachuk. He is loved here in Ottawa. The fan base loves him. Everybody knows that. He's a great fit here. He's the captain of the team. He lives about 5 streets over from me here in Ottawa. He's entrenched in the community, does a lot of great things. So to me, this is a lot of noise on the outside, because I'll tell you from playing and being in the room, guys aren't in the room discussing politics and saying, oh my God, the anthem got booed tonight. Man, I'm really pissed off about that. I just think there's so much, people have to understand, you have to be so razor focused to play this game. It's tougher than ever. It's so fast, it's so physical. So is he annoyed? Probably. Is he going to take it out on the fans? I think this is just something that will pass in time, Jeff. But I'll tell you this, the thing that probably makes people the most upset is losing. If you continually lose and don't make the playoffs, that's what really bothers players. And I'll say this, I would be more concerned if Ottawa continued to lose all the time. But then again, he's the captain. He's part of it. And they got a nice group here. They got a really good group. A lot of guys are close. This group wants to win together. They want to get it done. But I don't know. The whole anthem thing, I don't know. If it's me, Jeff, be honest. I just it's unfortunate because it's taking away from the NHL. And anyways, I hate getting political, but for Tkachuk, winning, being part of it, and watching what his brother does, far more important to him.
All right. On that, we'll park it. Off to the grocery store for your homework. And
Peanut butter bear.
I'll expect something on my desk first thing at 9 a.m. tomorrow, York Chop. Thanks, pal. You be good.
Now you got me thinking. I'm gonna get right on the Google machine and I'm gonna tweet out a picture of the peanut butter bear with you right beside
my loaf.
We're gonna have a poll.
Yeah, it's my loaf. Peanut butter bear's got a better look than me. Trust me. Thanks, pal. You be good.
See you, Jeff.
The one and only Jason York from the Coming In Hot podcast, as heard here on the Nation Network. All right, a couple of things here, Zach, really quick. Want to remind people that FanDuel are our friends and co-presenters here on the program. Proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. Roster updates from Daily Faceoff's fantasy Twitter/X feed, updated around the clock. As Yorkie just mentioned a couple of seconds ago, Ottawa Senators facing off against the Blackhawks. This is the proverbial game they have to have. Like, it's going to be tough for Ottawa, for all those teams to distinguish themselves in this race, but these are the ones you can't lose. It's the Caps and the Rangers at MSG. It's the Maple Leafs facing off against the Vegas Golden Knights. Tonight at T-Mobile Arena. Anaheim and Vancouver. No Quinn Hughes for the Vancouver Canucks. Did something in the game against Seattle. Tweaked something. Kevin Lankinen gets a start for Vancouver. Maybe, just maybe, this is the last time we'll see Brock Besser, depending on deadline, in a Vancouver Canucks uniform. And the St. Louis Blues face off against the LA Kings at Crypto.com Arena. Now, one thing I did want to mention to you, because I'm kind of racking my brain about it here. And this is someone that we should have on the show. So Connor Carrick, who's a defenseman currently playing in Bakersfield in the American Hockey League. He's one of the more thoughtful hockey players in professional hockey. We got to get Connor on. So he sent me this tweet today. He said, "Who does it better hypothetically? Crosby playing with Ovechkin's curve for a whole season, or Ovechkin with Crosby's curve? I had this thought and pulled over while driving to tweet it."
It's funny that it was not pressing.
I texted him. I'm like, "F, that's a good one." And he sends back, "I can't think about anything else." We should have him back to answer that question. And it's a complicated one because I don't know if you have both patterns handy that we can. Okay, so Crosby's is pretty much like, for you olds out there, Dave Keon's. It's pretty much a flat one. The thing about Crosby is, more so than anybody else in the NHL in his era, he plays on his backhand. That's why if you ever hear like, "Oh, Crosby's hard to play with," well, if you know how to play with someone who plays on their backhand a lot, Crosby's probably a really easy guy to play with. And then there's Ovechkin's, which he needs for the one-timer. Like, Ovechkin's game is power. Crosby's game is passing, creativity, being more sneaky, and he needs that type of blade. And so he DMs me this or tweets me this like right before the show. I'm like, "Oh, you have to do this now. Like, you have to do this right before I go on the air, because that's now all I'm going to think about." And it's all I've kind of been thinking about since he DM'd it to me. My instinct is that Ovechkin does better with Crosby's blade because you can still one-time a puck effectively. Not as effectively as with the Ovechkin pattern. Like, I don't think you're going to blow pucks by goalies with Crosby's pattern, but I don't know that Crosby can play as effectively on his backhand, which is a huge part of his game, with that Ovechkin banana.
I think I go the other way. I think it's Sidney Crosby playing with Ovies because as much as the backhand is an important part, I think that, like, this is where this conversation just starts to get ridiculous, but I think that the impact of his game is the decrease in efficiency is less so than the decrease in efficiency of Ovechkin's in terms of the overall impacts of their game. So what I mean is that if Ovi goes to Crosby's, I think he loses a lot on the control of the one-timer, which is a major part of his game, and the slap shot, the snapshot, whatever. Whereas Crosby, the backhand is important, but you can still use it. It just might be a little bit less, but it's just not as much of a factor in his game as the one-timer is to Ovechkin's game. So if you get what I'm saying, I think.
I know. Okay, so here's what here's the argument. Here's the argument. What's more important to their game, the backhand for Crosby, or the one-timer for Ovechkin?
Ovi for sure. In my opinion, at least, yeah, it's the Ovi one-timer.
We don't have enough time for this one, but this would be a great one for the chat. And I want to get, when deadline's done, I want to get Carrick on to formulate his thoughts on this one too. Let's pick this up as a poll tomorrow on the show. Okay. Well, quickly on this, like, which curve do you use? I'm curious, and like, which do you prefer? Why?
I like the P20. Which one is yours more similar?
But the one that I use, personally. Yeah. P28.
Yeah, you personally.
P28.
Okay, so P28.
P28 with a low kick point.
Yeah, okay. I think that mine is the same.
You have the same?
Yeah, I believe so. I think so, yeah.
But everybody uses the P28 now, don't they?
Oh, no, actually, mine is not the P28.
What do you use?
I use the Kane curve.
Oh, yeah. Guys like you and Pat Kane are so similar.
Yeah, so similar. You almost can't tell us apart on the ice.
Is that Pat Kane?
I used to use the Stamkos for a long time. I used the Stamkos, and then I had just switched to the Canes like more recently. Again, free sticks. But
you know what someone told me? You know what someone told me about those patterns? That Yzerman's pattern was never used actually by Yzerman, and that's the one that Adam Oates is in love with. That's what he says everybody should
I'm pretty sure a lot of them aren't used by. I think they're all slightly different than what the actual specs of the players are.
I think
people who would be able to tell
used his. No?
I only say that because I've looked at pictures of them sometimes where it's not.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit different. But I also think that those guys take the blowtorch to them sometimes and mess around with them or whatever. Yeah.
Ben Hopkins, P92, common as well. Is that the one that gives you more toe on the ice? The 92?
P92. I'm literally looking at these right now. Yes, it does.
Wait away. Is that the one that gives you more toe on the ice? Which is the one that gives you more toe on the ice?
Okay, so this says P92, curve is the mid-heel, face is open, toe round, length long. P88 is the one I used. Mid-heel.
Well, you and Kane. Yeah, you and Kane. It's similar.
Me and Kane, yeah. Toe round, length long. I think that one's the one with more toe on the ice. It's like the flatter.
Which one is it?
Blade. P88, I think.
P88? So that's yours. Because
that's
the one that you use.
The 92 goes up at the end a little bit more, just based on what I'm looking at here.
So Dorsal in the chat, me and my Sherwood 50-30 with the coffee curve taught me to play all the old PMPs.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
That's for the olds. Yeah, I love that one. One day we'll just do a show on sticks. Okay. One day we'll just do a show on sticks and stick patterns. Or maybe we'll just
Ryan DeZingle curve, Dingle Bop says.
Ooh.
That's a poll right there.
Yeah. Brian H., I use the PS5 myself. Jesse Stevens, Ryan Smith's curve.
Get in.
Ryan, here, okay, agree, disagree. Ryan Smith had the ugliest stick in the history of the game. In the history of hockey, the ugliest stick ever used by anybody was Ryan Smith's.
I need to refresh my memory here.
No, because the answer is yes, Jeff. The answer is yes, Jeff. It is the ugliest stick.
Why do you say this?
Just have a look at it. It's the ugliest two-piece stick you've ever seen. The blade just looks like it's a flat, fat tongue is the blade.
You know what it looks like? It looks like a picture, like a depiction of what a hockey stick would look like.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Somebody who doesn't know what a hockey stick looks like.
Ryan Smith made a career using that stick, and he was great on the boards with it.
That's
he was
unreal.
incredible on the boards with it.
That's insane. That's stick.
Shot
That's pretty
muffins.
funny.
Shot muffins, because like look at that. Who's shooting with that thing? But on like board play, Ryan Smith was incredible. Just an incredible player. Okay. Before we go down that wormhole too deeply.
Yeah.
Thanks to
before we
Pierre
get
McGuire
lost.
for stopping by. Congratulations to your barber. Cleaned you up a little bit. That's nice.
Yeah, he did.
Or did you
Yeah.
do that yourself?
I mean,
Who
no,
did that?
Oh no.
Where'd you go?
My guy Andy. Downtown Toronto. My guy Andy.
All right.
Andy Wu cleaned it up. Did me nice. Yep.
All right.
So, man.
Congratulations. Your playoffs
He's worried
continue
about the
in
Leafs, Jeff.
your league?
me.
Okay, yeah, I know. He's
Yeah,
concerned.
yeah.
He's wringing his hands. He's all nervous. Never mind, like, tariffs and politics and all. He's worried about the Leafs. All of that, yeah, whatever.
That's all I'm concerned.
What the Maple Leafs are going to do.
Like, I've got Vic sending me Austin Matthews quotes during the show here. Like, that's what we're concerned about.
Brian H. Ryan Smith equals excellent mullet just like Zach. That's true.
Thank you, Brian.
That's
Thank you, Brian.
that's true. Do you have like an inspirational mullet? Knows your boy Patty Kane. You guys share the same pattern too.
No, you know what I actually used to want to look like as a kid? I used to really want my hair to be like O'Callahan in Miracle on Ice. Like, I used to see that and be like, that's hockey
your
hair,
feathers?
and that's what I need. And then the mullet was, I mean, Patty Kane inspired, obviously, but I mean, the honest truth about the mullet was back when I was doing, like, when I first started doing Leaf shows, I was like, oh, if we get 2,000 subscribers by the playoffs, I'll do it. And I didn't think it was going to happen. I just started this account or whatever.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh, okay, let's see this. And then we hit 2,000 subscribers in like a month. And I was like, oh, shit, I have to get a mullet. Yeah.
Open mouth, insert
Yeah.
foot. Way to go, Zach.
Yeah.
Way to go,
and then
genius.
that was, Jeff, 4 years ago, I think. So it's stuck.
And here we are, presenting it
Yeah.
daily at 3 o'clock Eastern, our Daily Faceoff
Yep.
YouTube channel. Bravo. Well done, everybody. Good job, everybody. Well done.
Whoops.
This is where it's taking us. Okay. Thanks to Pierre McGuire for stopping by. Thanks to the great Jason York, the York Choppers, we like to call him, from the Coming In Hot podcast, and the Kraft Peanut Butter Bears, which double as my hair. Look, dude, like, it's bad. Like, I've always had awful. I'll show you a picture one day. When I was at university at golf, I did have a mullet for a year there. But like good one where like the hair was like down past my shoulders.
Okay, yeah.
The real crown of glory. Yeah, look at that. Like that's my hair now. Like that is like, honestly, it's Kraft Peanut Butter Bear. That's what it is, bud. It's okay.
Well, I think
It's
it
awful.
looks good, Jeff. I think you
Bless
look
ya.
great.
You got the job. You don't have to kiss my ass. Like, you got the gig, man. Like, you can insult me now. It's all right. Like, we're past all that. Like, dude, like, look at that chick repellent thing on your head. What is that? Is that your hair? Is that your real hair? Yes, it is. Damn it. Me and the Kraft Peanut Butter Bear. Andy Vayu. Shout out from Guelph, Jeff. Right on, bud. Jeff with the Yager mullet. I did have one, Dingle Bop. You bet I did. Nathaniel, we need to see it. You will see it. I got to find it. I might actually even be smoking a cigarette in the picture, too. When you're at university, you read a lot.
Leather jacket.
No leather jacket. I think I had like a, you know what? It's so lame, too. I was wearing like Adidas shorts and a Sid and Nancy shirt from the movie. Oh, dude. I was from the land women forgot at university. Just the worst. Like, I didn't even like me. Can't imagine how other people felt. I didn't even want to be around me. Look at me. It's ridiculous.
I need to see this picture so bad.
I gotta find it.
I need
I'll
to see
find
this
it.
picture.
Oh, it's
You see Vic's comment?
It's somewhere. What's Vic saying?
I'd kill for your hair, Jeff.
Oh, I know. Listen, but the thing is, like, it just pops out. Like, it just grows thick fast, man. But I know, like, all my friends that are follically challenged. J-Rock, wait, we get a job if we insult you? I'm in. Jeff is 6 months from being young Letterman. Fuck me. That's a good line. That's good. Chat's hot. Just roast.
Yeah,
nice
chat's
lettuce
buzzing.
from Rick. Yeah, it's true, man. Yeah, okay. Let's shut it down before my ego gets crushed here. Enjoy the hockey games tonight. We're back back tomorrow for the sheet. 9 a.m. tomorrow, I'll be on with Johnny Lazarus on Morning Cup of Hockey. It's fun to co-host your favorite show, and that's what I'll be doing tomorrow. Daily Faceoff live at noon Eastern, and then our act here at 3 o'clock. Thanks so much for everyone in the chat, everyone watching, everybody listening, and everyone paying attention to everything we're doing here at Daily Faceoff. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Our most recent work all culminating on Friday with trade deadline, but plenty more to get to between here and then, or then and now, or now and then. I really need to sleep more. I should stop drinking coffee so late in the day. It really messes up my sleep and then my performance here. All right. Keep the roasting coming, Yanni. Don't worry about that. At least you boys didn't live in the Frosted Tips era. I did, but I never did it. But you know who did?
I think I had it.
Did you have the tips? You know who else did? Oh, man. Oh, by the way, J-Rock, Jeff looks like a literature professor from a mid-level university. That's what I was going to school for. And then I ended up taking a job at the Fan and Promotions, and then just like worked my way up the ladder, and somehow I'm here, and all the books that I read and papers I wrote and all the times that I said, yeah, I'll go back and do my master's and eventually my PhD, I stopped saying that, and here I am. You know who had the Frosted Tips? Elliot Friedman had the tips.
No.
I think that might have been standard issue at University of Western, though. Not like us at Guelph, though.
Yeah.
Nope. No Frosted Tips
I
there.
did go there.
Yeah. Okay. Peace out. See everybody tomorrow. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.